Hi, I'm by Austin Ramos, and the Dolphins will be playing the Houston Texans this Thursday, October 25th, in their Week 8 matchup.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team.
Now let's see what we need to know about Houston. They're a heavily minded defensive team with one of the best defensive ends in the game, J.J. Watt. The guy's a freaking animal. So far he has 7 sacks on the season, and I'm pretty sure he's up there as a sack leader in the NFL this season, and I wouldn't doubt it because you just can't stop that guy. He is just a freak of nature. Then there's Jadeveon Clowney, which has had a rough go throughout his NFL career, but he's pulling it together and he's not being injured as often, and that's good for him and the Houston Texans because he has 4.5 sacks and he has 2 fumble recoveries. Looking at their secondary, they have a great safety in Tyrann Mathieu, and he's called the Honey Badger because he's crazy and he's all over the field. He's around every play. And then they also have a cornerback by the name of Jonathan Joseph, who is considered to be a great cornerback, but he's not the greatest because he's young. He's not X. All right. Houston's offensive playmakers are pretty much their main wide receiver, their main running back, and the quarterback. So, as though people might look over their offense and say they're not that great, they're pretty good, but don't let them fool you. Their leading receiver is DeAndre Hopkins. Who would have thought? Yeah, right. He's averaging 101 yards per game. Okay. Then we have Lamar Miller, who's a former Miami Dolphins running back, and he's averaging 61 yards per game. And then their quarterback, Deshaun Watson. He's averaging 258 yards in the air and about 30 yards rushing. And he's been sacked, get this, 26 times. Wow. Crazy, right? So far this season, Houston is 4-3. They started off the season 0-3, losing their first 3 straight games, and then they bounced back with winning 4 in a row. Their opponents that they beat: the Colts, the Cowboys, the Bills, the Jaguars. Nothing against them, but those teams haven't looked so good this season at all. But they lost to the Giants. That was their last loss, I believe, and probably lit a fire on their ass because, wow. Now they're on a 4-game winning streak, and they're coming into this game against Miami and thinking probably that they're gonna whoop us, give it to us. It's not gonna happen. Miami's gonna come out and play. Don't worry about that. Let's go over the Dolphins' injuries heading into this game. We have Albert Wilson, who is probably on the IR by now. He's most likely going to be on it. Luckily, he won't need surgery for his hip/leg injury because I think he hyperextended his right leg when he got tackled by Tez Tabers of the Lions. But he's most likely not coming back this season. There could be a slither like that much of a chance that he comes back, but I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately, because he's one of the best playmakers we've had this season so far, and it hurts to see him go out like that. Following that, we have obviously Ryan Tannehill, who's still out with a shoulder injury. He was throwing a Nerf ball, I believe, with his left hand with like some of the offensive linemen or whatever. Will he come back against the Jets? Maybe against Green Bay, maybe. Or what I think the Dolphins are most likely going to do is ride Brock Osweiler until the bye week, and hopefully by then Tannehill should feel fine and should take over this offense again and produce, come back, dominate. That's what the Dolphins need. They need their quarterbacks to take over the game. So whether it's Brock Osweiler or Tannehill, they need to perform great. So far, Brock Osweiler has performed good. Hasn't performed bad. I mean, he only throw. He only threw 2 interceptions against the Bears, and the first one was underthrown to like Devontae Parker, and then the second one was like just a stupid throw, but whatever. Then we have Charles Harris and Kenny Stills, who are out, and then Mike Hole and Jake Brendel, they are still in injury reserve, but they started practicing again, so they should come back sometime within these next 2 weeks, hopefully, because having some depth at linebacker and in the offensive line is going to be great, because especially at the offensive line with all the struggles we've been having there. A.J. Derby's listed as questionable, and do we need him? Maybe. Do we have to have him on the field? Not necessarily, just because of what Nick O'Leary has been brought to the team and just shown why he deserves to stay in the NFL. And once again, I don't know why the Bills cut him. I mean, he's a great tight end. He's not the greatest, but he can block, he can catch. That's what you need tight ends to do, right? Now, what does the offense need to do? Run the ball. It's that simple. Run the ball. Do not let J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney just beat up on Brock Osweiler. Why? Why do we need that? So what, we can go to David Fales, who, let's say, I mean, he's only played 1 game, and it was against the Bills. They put up a good fight. The Dolphins put up a good fight in that game. It was the last game of the season. Unfortunately, they lost, and the Bills went to the playoffs because of Andy Dalton throwing a last-second touchdown against the Ravens, knocking them out of the playoffs. They wouldn't have even made it if it wasn't for that, but whatever. I think the offensive line needs to take a similar approach to how they did it against the Bears when they pretty much shut down Khalil Mack. But then exists the problem that there's 2 great rushers on this team. You got J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney. Those guys are beast. So it's going to be a tough game for the offensive line. So that's why we need to run the ball. Get them away from disrupting the entire offensive flow. Yeah, you might lose yards running or whatever, but it's better than having Brock Osweiler get the ball and get sacked. Losing more yards, probably, because most sacks are almost like -5 yards, -8 yards. Dolphins offense does not need that, especially with how often we get penalties and all that. It's not going to be a good mix. Now, when the Dolphins are attacking Houston's defense, well, most necessarily their secondary, they need to watch out for Tyrann Mathieu and Jonathan Joseph, because yeah, they haven't produced a bunch of turnovers, but they're there on the ball. They're hitting their pass deflections. They're there. Don't worry about them. They will come to play. And I expect the Dolphins offense to come to play too. Dolphins also need to get Mike Gesicki involved more in the pass game. He started to do that a little bit more last game. That was mainly because we had receivers dropping like flies. But there's not much you can do about that. I mean, we're coming into this game with Jakeem Grant, Danny Amendola, and Devontae Parker. We need more receivers on the field, because eventually throughout the game, those guys are going to get tired. And we need to do something about keeping the ball moving. So when you throw the ball, you have guys to catch it. So, and Gesicki has shown he can catch the balls that are thrown his way. And I believe he can have a big game against this Houston defense. What does the defense need to do to get stops or just put Miami in position to win this football game, possibly force turnovers? First of all, we contain Deshaun Watson. Yeah, put pressure on him, but don't let him escape the pocket, because he will burn you with his legs. He might not get a huge amount of yards, but he will get possibly first downs. I mean, on a short 3rd down, if you mess up on containing him, he's going to run for the first down, and he's going to get it, and he's going to continue to drive, leaving our defense on the field. Our defense is good, but they've been on the field way too much this season, and they need to get off the field. but also the offense can't be giving up plays and letting the defense have to come out every so often. So it goes hand in hand. Next is DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, we need to stop him. I mean, the guy's averaging 101 yards per game. That's not normal. I mean, the only other guy I know that's doing that is, I think, Adam Thielen. So they're producing. But he's the main target, and Xavier Howard needs to cover him the entire game. I mean, for the majority of the game, you're going to see Xavier Howard either manned up or just on the side that DeAndre Hopkins is on. And it's quite funny because they were talking about it, that Xavier Howard said, oh, you know, Hopkins likes to push off a lot and whatever. And then DeAndre Hopkins rebutted with saying, who's Xavier Howard? He knows who Xavier Howard is, alright? DeAndre Hopkins, former college teammate in Clemson, Cordea Tankersley. I mean, they've had conversations with each other about Xavier Howard, so he knows who he is, so don't worry. Last but not least, what does our defense need to do? That has killed us in the 3 games that we've lost. Stopping the run. In the 3 games that Miami's lost, they've allowed their running backs to not necessarily take over the game, but get over 100 yards. Keep plays, keep drives going. You know, it all started with New England when Sonny Michel had pretty much his breakout game as a rookie. He had like 112 yards and 1 touchdown. And then following that, we played Cincinnati, Joe Mixon. He had like 93 yards. And then he had an 18-yard touchdown reception that Kiko Alonso was almost there for, but whatever. What are you going to do about it? But not necessarily the Dolphins' defense lost that game. It's obviously more on the offense, and mainly Tannehill with ball bouncing off of Smythe's head, and what else? The freaking fumble. The fumble 6. I mean, without those 2 plays, Miami would have been in position to win the game, but offensive line didn't hold up their end, and that was the result of the game. And then this past game, Kerryon Johnson just completely ran all over us for 158 yards. I mean, Miami cannot let that happen. They need to stop the run at all costs. Do not let Lamar Miller run all over you. Do not allow Alfred Blue. I mean, we can't allow this, guys. The defense needs to stop the run. Houston is a grinded out team. Now, what do I mean by that? They are, you know, in the game, they're getting it back and forward type of thing, you know, or they have a deficit to overcome, and they'll do it slowly. I expect their offense to put up some points. Do I expect them to score like 30? No. They've only done that, I think, once this season, and that was to the Colts in an overtime game. So, what can you say? What the defense needs to do is look at that Cowboys game and see what they did to limit them to such, not bad possessions, but just not scoring possessions. I mean, the game was like 19-16, so there was a bunch of field goals in that game. There was not a lot of touchdowns going on. They're probably a different team from then. I mean, a team changes week from week. And also, Houston doesn't have a lot of injuries on their team. That's going for them because Miami has a bunch of injuries, and it's hurting them a lot, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Now, who will win this game? The Miami Dolphins, of course. 24-21. Hopefully it's a Jason Sanders game-winning field goal. If not, they just hopefully close out the game, leave there with a W, and have a long rest for the Jets because Sam Darnold is progressing. He's better than when we played him on week 2. That's for sure. I mean, that should be with any rookie quarterback. So I have some news. I am officially a contributor to the Fanatic page, which is ran by the Fan-Sided. If you don't know what that is, I will link it down below so you guys can check it out. I don't have any articles up yet, but I should have some articles coming soon, and you guys will know about it when I do. Also, to keep up with what I have to say, follow my Twitter. I'm most active on there. Instagram as well. And if you like the video, like it, give it a thumbs up, and let me know what your thoughts are about coming into this game, about the Dolphins, and what they could do to get this win. And if not, just what are you thinking of the team so far this season? I mean, we're getting to the halfway point. This is literally the halfway point. Week 8, no bye yet. So thank you for watching, and fins up.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team.